today. So if you're there in Exodus chapter 25, we're going to start reading in verse 23. Exodus 25, starting in verse 23. It says, "You shall make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be its length, and a cubit its width, a cubit and a half its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, and make a molding of gold all around. You shall make for it a frame of a handbreadth all around, and you shall make a gold molding for the frame all around. And you shall you shall make it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings of on the 4 corners that are at its 4 legs. The rings shall be close to the frame, and the holders for the poles to bear the table. And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be carried with them. And you shall make its dishes, its pans, its pitchers, and the bowls for pouring. You shall make them of pure gold. And you shall set the showbread on the table before me always." Now, do you know the table of showbread? We just read how to create the table of showbread and to put the showbread on this table. How many have heard of showbread before? We've all heard of the table of showbread in the tabernacle and temple, right? One of the pieces of furniture. But this showbread is actually the image of the real presence of Jesus in communion for us. Now, I do not know where they got the term showbread. It is a horrible translation of what the words in Hebrew are. The words in Hebrew translated as showbread are lechem panim. Lechem panim. And lechem means bread. Panim means faces or presence. And actually, the direct translation of those words is the bread of faces. However, when someone's face is turned towards you, you are in that person's presence. And the Hebrew word that they use for showbread would be to us the bread of presence. The bread of the presence of God. In fact, many translations translate it this way. In the New American Standard Version, it says this: "You shall set the bread of the presence on the table before me at all times." This is in modern translations, and we overlook it so much, don't we? The bread of the presence, capital P. That means the presence of God. The NIV, which is not my favorite, but it says, "Put the bread of the presence on this table to be before me at all times." The Amplified Classic says, "You shall set the showbread, the bread of the presence, on the table before me always." And it gives a cross-reference of John chapter 6. John chapter 6, where Jesus has been talking about, "My flesh is food indeed, and my blood is drink indeed." Now, this is amazing to me, that in the holy house of God, an entire major piece of furniture is dedicated to the bread of the presence of God. An entire table is set apart, and on this table, we saw all those descriptors that it had to be made of acacia wood. Now, I don't have time to go into all of that, but just know that acacia wood was an incorruptible wood. Parasites and things could not consume this wood. And it was overlaid with gold that symbolizes and signifies the divinity of God. Incorruptible wood that springs forth from the ground, overlaid with gold. It's an image of God in incorruptible man. And that was the construction of the table. But the instruments on it and the pitchers and the plates were made of absolute pure gold, no wood. The plates, the pitchers. Now, why is there a pitcher and bowl for pouring? As we can see back in verse 29, Exodus 25:29. It says, you'll make dishes, pans, pitchers, and bowls for pouring. Because on the table of showbread, most people just gloss right on past this, there was always a pitcher of wine as a drink offering that was to be given to the Lord. So on the table of the bread of presence was also